America is the richest and most powerful country in history. But its rise to the top was not planned. It was unexpected. For more than 100 years after its discovery, North America was mostly ignored. At that time, people didn't even realize how important this land would become. Maps of the world showed only limited knowledge of the Western lands. Even when explorers heard about distant lands, they thought they were just small islands. No one imagined it was a massive continent. This misunderstanding would soon lead to one of the biggest discoveries in history. And everything began with one bold idea: sailing west to reach Asia. That idea would change the world forever. Christopher Columbus believed he could find a new trade route to Asia by sailing west. But instead of Asia, he reached islands in the Caribbean Sea. He didn't find the spices he was searching for. Still, he believed he was close to India. That's why he called the native people Indians. He collected valuable items like gold and returned to Spain. Standing before the king and queen, he claimed success. But when asked about spices, he had no answer. Instead, he spoke about gold. Lots of gold. That was enough to convince the rulers to send him again. The Spanish rulers were excited by the idea of wealth. They ordered Columbus to return and bring more gold. They also wanted to spread Christianity in these new lands. Around the same time, Portugal found a sea route to Asia around Africa. To avoid conflict, Spain and Portugal divided the world between them. An imaginary line was drawn across the map. Everything on one side belonged to Portugal. Everything on the other side belonged to Spain. Portugal focused on trade in Asia. Spain focused on conquering the Americas.
The Spanish quickly moved to South America. There, they found gold, silver, and large populations. These resources made the region extremely valuable. But North America seemed empty and useless to them. An expedition in 1539 confirmed their doubts. There was no gold or silver to be found, so they ignored most of North America. Meanwhile, other countries began to take interest. The English sent explorers to the region, but they didn't immediately build colonies.
England's first attempt at a colony was Roanoke in 1585, but it mysteriously disappeared. No one knows exactly what happened to the settlers. Later, the English tried again at Jamestown. This time, the colony survived. Soon after, the Pilgrims arrived in Plymouth. They were strict religious people. They created a disciplined society with strong rules. More settlers continued arriving from Europe, and slowly, the East Coast filled with colonies.
While the British expanded along the coast, the French claimed large areas in the center of North America. Tensions began to rise between the two powers. In 1754, conflict finally turned into war. This war became known as the French and Indian War. Both sides formed alliances with Native American tribes. The British had a much larger population, and eventually they won the war. At the same time, another war was happening in Europe. After it ended, the map of North America changed dramatically.
France lost most of its territory in North America. Britain gained Canada and vast lands. But victory came at a cost. The war had been extremely expensive. Britain needed money to recover. So they decided to tax the American colonies. The colonists were not happy. They felt it was unfair. They had no representation in British government, and yet they were being taxed heavily. The tension quickly turned into protests. Protests turned into conflict, and conflict turned into revolution. In 1776, the colonies declared independence. This marked the birth of a new nation. But the war was not over yet. It continued for 5 more years. Finally, the Americans won their freedom. But independence brought new challenges. The new government was weak and unstable.
The 13 colonies acted like separate countries. They struggled to work together. The nation was falling apart quickly. So the leaders decided to fix the system. They wrote a new constitution. This created a stronger federal government. In 1789, it officially came into effect. George Washington became the first president. The United States was finally stable, but it was still a small country. Much of the surrounding land belonged to other nations. Meanwhile, in Europe, Napoleon rose to power. He wanted to build a global empire. He planned to expand into North America. But the United States was concerned. They needed access to the Mississippi River, so they offered to buy land from France. Napoleon faced a difficult decision. In the end, he chose to sell. This deal would change America forever. America bought Louisiana for $15 million. The country instantly doubled in size. Its population was also growing rapidly. Families were large and expanding. People needed more land, so they moved west. Much of the land was unclaimed. Settlers began to take it. This led to conflicts with Native Americans. Expansion became a key part of American growth. In 1819, the United States bought Florida from Spain. A clear border was established between American and Spanish lands. Soon after, Mexico gained independence from Spain. Now, the United States had a new neighbor. Mexico's northern lands were vast but sparsely populated. To strengthen control, Mexico invited American settlers. These settlers quickly increased in number. Before long, they outnumbered the Mexican population. Tensions began to rise between both groups. This situation would soon lead to conflict. The settlers in Texas eventually declared independence. They formed their own republic. Soon after, they wanted to join the United States. But there was a major issue: slavery. Some American states supported it, others opposed it. Because of this, Texas was initially rejected. But in 1845, the United States changed its decision. Texas was officially added to the Union. This created new tensions with Mexico, and those tensions quickly turned into war. The war between the United States and Mexico began. After intense fighting, the United States won. As part of the agreement, America gained vast territories. These lands included much of the modern western states. Just a few years later, more land was purchased. At the same time, Britain and the U.S. settled their borders peacefully. The Oregon Territory was divided between them. In just a few decades, America expanded massively. It now stretched from coast to coast. The nation had become geographically powerful. With expansion complete, there seemed to be no land left to claim. But opportunities still appeared in unexpected places. Small islands in the ocean were claimed by the United States. Some were valuable for resources, like guano. These islands even became strategically important later. Meanwhile, major discoveries were happening at home. Gold was found in California. This sparked a massive gold rush. Thousands of people rushed west in search of fortune. America was growing rapidly and becoming prosperous. Farmers also moved to fertile lands like Oregon. The country seemed peaceful and successful, but there was a serious problem inside. That problem was slavery. In the northern states, slavery was illegal. Many people there believed it was wrong. In the southern states, it was part of the economy. This created a deep division. The issue had been building for decades, and soon it would explode into conflict. In 1860, Abraham Lincoln was elected president. Many southern states feared his policies. They believed he would end slavery. So they decided to leave the Union. They formed their own country. This led to the American Civil War. It became one of the deadliest conflicts in history. Families and communities were divided. After years of fighting, the North won. Slavery was finally abolished. The United States was united again. But the cost had been enormous. Shortly after the war, tragedy struck again. President Abraham Lincoln was assassinated. The nation mourned deeply. Around the same time, another opportunity appeared. Russia offered to sell Alaska to the United States. After negotiations, America agreed. Alaska was purchased for $7 million. This added another Vishal region to the country.
Now America had grown even larger. But expansion was not over yet. Attention turned to the Pacific Ocean. American businessmen took control of Hawaii. They requested that the U.S. annex the islands. Some leaders opposed the idea. They believed America should act fairly. Others feared foreign powers might take Hawaii. This debate divided opinions. Eventually, strategic interests would win. Meanwhile, another conflict was developing in Cuba. Cuba was fighting for independence from Spain. American newspapers closely followed the situation. Many Americans supported the Cuban rebels. Then, a mysterious explosion sank a U.S. warship. This event shocked the nation. The United States demanded Spain leave Cuba. Spain refused and declared war. This started the Spanish-American War. The United States quickly gained victory. After the war, the United States gained new territories. These included Puerto Rico and the Philippines. This marked the end of Spain's empire. Hawaii was also officially annexed. America was now becoming a global power. Soon after, a major political change happened. President McKinley was assassinated. Theodore Roosevelt became president. He brought energy and strong leadership. America's global influence continued to grow. Roosevelt expanded the U.S. Navy significantly. He believed in strong international presence. One of his biggest achievements was the Panama Canal. It connected the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. This allowed faster movement of ships and military power. By 1914, the canal was complete. The United States had become a true world power. Its economy, military, and influence were unmatched. And just as it reached this position, World War I had begun.